المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله عليه تجارة مربحة يسرها لهم ربهم أرادتهم الدنيا فلم يريدها وأسرتهم ففدوا أنفسهم منها. صلوات بيج محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Continuing with Khutba Mutqeen from Nahjul Balagha, sermon number 193. Amir al-Mu'mineen, after having mentioned the two very important attributes of Mutqeen, that these are the people who have patience, they show patience and portray patience for a little while to gain comfort for a longer time. And that was referred to us, and we discussed that in this life that they show patience. Mu'mineen and Muttaqeen are the ones who portray patience, which is this lifetime, this is lifespan, which is this life period. And after this is over, in the hereafter, they receive what is called the comfort for a longer period, forever. And after that, Imam is saying it is beneficial transaction that Allah made easy for them. The world aimed at them, but they did not aim at it. It captured them, but they freed themselves from it by a ransom. So after having mentioned the concept of sabr, after having mentioned how these people portray that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or Amir al-Mu'mineen is saying that this was a trade, basically what they're trying to make with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in this trade, if they go ahead, it's a beneficial transaction. And what happens in the end is that the world was aiming at them, but they turned away themselves from this world. It captured them, but they freed themselves from it by a ransom. This part is clearly supporting the previous segment about sabr, that is beneficial transaction with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We see that dunya has been discussed over here in this segment, and dunya is expressed differently in the verses of Quran as well as ahadith. We read, or this hadith, or this saying we hear all the time, which says ad-dunya mazra'atul akhirah. Now I don't know if it's a saying or it's just a hadith or whatever it is, but we hear that all the time, and I'm sure you've heard it from the scholars as well. The world is like a farming land for the hereafter. Mazra'a is where you farm, where farmers do their work. So you farm for a later period, for the summer, for the later period. And when you harvest, when you cultivate for a longer period, you're waiting for it anxiously and you anticipate in that. The same thing dunya and the world is being referred to, that this is where you go ahead and you harvest. This is where you go ahead and cultivate, and then you wait for the harvest, or where you wait for the results, the product in the hereafter. So that's why dunya is being referred to as the mazra'ah, which is a farming land. And we see that now in Quran, little bit of the same resembling thing has been discussed, which these ahadith are referring towards. In Surah Shura, verse number 20, it says, "Man kana yuridu harth al-akhirah, nazid lahu fi harthihi, wa man kana yuridu harth ad-dunya, nu'tihi minha wa ma lahu fil akhirati min nasib." It says, we shall increase the harvest of those who seek a good harvest in this life for the hereafter. However, those who want to have their harvest in this life will be given it, but will have no share in the hereafter. This ayat of Quran is very clear about it, that whatever you are harvesting, whatever you are hoping for in this world, and you want it for the hereafter, then obviously you will have your share here as well as in the hereafter. But if your aim is only to receive something back within this world, then you will not have any nasib as far as the hereafter is concerned. This is Surah Shura, verse number 20. It says, however, those who want to have their harvest in this life will be given. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not deprive them. It's not that they will be deprived of that. And that's why you see that a lot of people, who do not believe in God, they're actually well off. They're doing good. And that is the reason that leads to believe that Allah does not do injustice to them. They're getting their share, but only in this world. But it is a temporary world. This is something which we need to be able to recognize, that this is temporary. So whatever they're getting is for only temporary period, and it will not be long lasting. In this verse and the ahadith before, the world has been resembled beautifully with a farm, which has the ability to be harvested now and later as well. Farmer has the choice to harvest what he wants, since it depends on his intention. Whatever it is that he wants to harvest, whatever it is that he wants to produce, he has this intention. Seed of this land is the action of mankind, which is being resembled over here. Whoever performs an action pointed in the direction of the hereafter will definitely receive it there, likewise it will also receive it over here. But whoever performs an action to benefit in this world should benefit only over here, will not have any share in the hereafter. A very delicate point can be noticed by the linguistics in this particular ayah. Surah Shura, verse number 20. Go ahead and look at it. A very delicate point which, Nuhat or those who work with the grammar, they'll be able to figure out that in this particular verse, Allah says, whoever wants their harvest in this life will be given some of it. The word that he says, nu'tihi minha. Min over here is min tabi'iz. Min tabi'iz mean part of it. It is something which is talking about a little bit of it and not talking about the whole thing. It says they will have no share in the hereafter. But the person who cultivates it for the hereafter, Allah says, we will reward him here and as well as in the hereafter. We will increase his harvest over here, but also he has this harvest which is waiting for him in the hereafter. One thing becomes very clear from this interpretation, that if one cultivates with the intention of hereafter, will have an increment in this life and reward in the afterlife, as opposed to the one whose intention is only worldly. Not only that he doesn't have a share in the hereafter, but is over here his share is also unproductive. Similar concept is also mentioned in Surah Bani Israel, verse number 18 and 19, where it says, Man kana yuridul ajilata ajjalna lahu fiha ma nasha'u liman nurid. And then the next ayah says, وَمَنْ أَرَادَ الْآخِرَةَ وَسَعَلَهَا سَعْيَهَا وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ فَأُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ سَعْيُهُمْ مَشْكُورًا. It says, whoever desires this transitory life, we expedite for him therein whatever we wish, for whomever we desire. We expedite it, we give it to him. Whoever desires the hereafter and strives for it with an endeavor worthy of it, should he be faithful, the endeavor of which which he's desiring for will be given to him, and it will also be appreciated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's not just the reward that you're getting, but it's a token of appreciation that you're also receiving from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine someone comes and does some job for you, some work for you. Person comes and mows a lawn, you pay him for what he has done for you, but then at the end you also say thank you very much. That thank you goes a long way. It's a relationship that you're building with this particular person. You didn't have to say this thank you because you have paid him for what the job this person was doing. Same thing is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing. You will receive your reward. That is already saved. But he also says, Sa'yukum mashkura. Your effort will also be appreciated over here. And I guess, it doesn't really matter for those who are really Mutqeen, those who are awliya Allah, to have any type of reward. That is why we read in that hadith by Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam, that when he's talking about the ibadat, he says, there are people who do ibadat, they're tujjar, they're businessmen because they want something in return. There are people who do ibadat because they're scared of the hell, and because of that they do ibadat. But the ibadat that I do is the ibadat of person who's a free person, free man. Why? Because I pray and worship because Allah is worthy of worship. Because He's mustahaq and He deserves to be worshipped, that is the reason I worship. So there's no tama of the paradise, nor is there any fear of the hellfire. Rather, it is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is worthy, and that's why Amirul Mu'mineen mentions that. It is the grace of Almighty that He provided a fertile land for us, and He showered a rain of mercy upon it, so that we can act righteously for the hereafter. With this grace and mercy, where land and seed both are from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the fertility is also provided by Him, what excuse do we have left not to cultivate? Secondly, or to cultivate weed or unwanted plants. You don't want to go ahead and grow these unwanted plants in your backyard. Nobody. You're actually trying to get rid of them. That's the same thing, the resemblance which is being given over here, that with all the things that Allah has provided, the land is there, the water is there, the cultivation and the fertility of the land is there. Now, what excuse do you have not to go ahead and produce something which is in the path of righteousness, or to go ahead and produce something which is unwanted? The same way you don't want unwanted weed growing in your backyard, you shouldn't have anything unwanted growing on your soul as well. The word dunya translates as world, but loses the essence of the meaning. That is something which we lose in translation sometime. The word dunya, you go ahead and translate. What do you translate? You say it's world. But the word world does not give you the meaning what dunya has. In Arabic, the word dunya, which is coming from dunuv, dal, noon, and vow, what does it refer to? It conveys the meaning of low and inferior. This is where the word dunya is comprised of, is coming out of. that it is low and it is inferior. So world does not give you that same meaning, whereas the word dunya gives you that meaning. So if we understood that this dunya is something which is comprised of the word which means low and inferior, as opposed to that which is waiting in the hereafter, then obviously our ilaqa and our connection with it also should be of the same level. Therefore, you should divert your attentions and sorrows towards the hereafter. And if you do it so, you will divert dunya. He will divert dunya towards you. And do not overload yourself in this world. For this world, you don't reach anywhere. We see that our Prophet Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in lines of the same concept which is being mentioned and repeated over and over, how dunya is turned towards you, he says, "Man kanat niyyatuhu ad-dunya, farraqa Allahu alayhi amrahu." He said, Prophet said, one whose aim is this world, Allah will scatter his affair and place poverty between his two eyes in a way that even apparently he might seem wealthy and rich. Due to his intentions, he will consider himself to be poor and lean towards greed. Although apparently the person might seem like wealthy and well off and whatnot, but because he's aimed towards the worldly affairs, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will feel himself, this person will feel poor from within, and he will have this greed. He will receive his share from this world, which has been decreed for him. On the contrary, one whose aim is only the hereafter, Allah will gather his dispersion, make him rich by heart, and turn the world towards him. In your possession, sakhara lakum, this will be under your possession. Not that you are being utilized by the world, rather you will be utilizing this world. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Amir al-Mu'mineen mentions 8 attributes for the world, and it started when Imam heard someone abusing and blaming the world. Imam said to him, he said, "O you who are blaming the world, who have been allured and enticed by it, and have been tempted by its false pretenses. You yourself allowed to be enamored by this world or be captivated by it, and now you go ahead and you accuse it and you go ahead and blame it. You are allured by this world and now you go ahead and turn around and you blame it." The same way when we always blame shaitan. Whereas shaitan, what Allah quotes in Quran, he says, "Fala talumuni," do not blame me. Lumu anfusakum, blame your own souls. I threw an arrow towards you, and Allah also threw so many arrows towards you. Arrows over here meaning to pull you towards myself. I stretched a rope towards you, Allah threw so many ropes towards you. You clung on to my rope, unfortunately, and you came towards me. But you neglected all the ropes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was stretching towards you. So do not blame me that shaitan did this to us. No, blame your own selves because you had extended this hand. It's not one-way traffic. I extended my hand and you replied and you returned it to me. So it says over here as well, Imam is saying, do not blame the world. The world did not do this to you. Yeah, the world has its, deceiving aspect, but it is not the fault of the world. It is you who yourself has captivated yourself into it, and now you go ahead and accuse and you blame it. Have you any reason or right to accuse it? Or to call it a sinner and seducer? Or is it world not justified in calling you a wicked knave and a sinning hypocrite? When did it make you lose your intelligence and reasoning? Did this world make you lose your intelligence? Did it make you lose your reasoning? No, never did it do that. He then mentions the 8 attributes of it. This is where we see that where Amir al-Mu'mineen is denouncing the world, at the same time Imam is mentioning the 8 attributes of the world. He says, "Inna dunya daru sidqin liman sadaqaha." He said, this world is a house of truth for those who look into it carefully. وَدَارُ عَافِيَةٍ لِمَنْ فَهِمَ عَنْهَا, and an abode for peace and rest for those who understand its ways and moods. Then he says, وَدَارُ غِنًى لِمَنْ تَزَوَّدَ مِنْهَا, and it is the best working ground for those who want to procure rewards for life in the hereafter. All this is being produced from this world. Do not blame it. 4th Imam said, it is a place of acquiring knowledge and wisdom for those who want to acquire them. It is you who does not want to acquire knowledge. It's not the fault of this world. It's a place of prostration for the friends of Allah. Do not blame this world. This same land, soil is the place of prostration for the friends of Allah, and a place of praying and sending salutations and asking for the forgiveness from the angels of Allah. It is a place where revelations of Allah was revealed. It is a place for virtuous people and saints who trade their good deeds and receive the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His rewards for later on. These are the 8 attributes that Amir al-Mu'mineen is mentioning in Nahjul Balagha, short saying number 130. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So we see that our discussion in this last segment of this short saying by Imam, where he mentions that the world is a place of trading, where you trade your goods lest you face a loss by trading for less or that which is not equal to your commodity. We see that in a hadith from our 10th Imam, Imam Abul Hasan al-Thalis, Imam Ali Naqi alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, "Ad-dunya suqun rabiha fiha qawmun wa khasira akharun." Now, our 10th Imam is called Abul Hasan al-Thalis. He's the 3rd Abul Hasan. So, what is the history behind that? I'm sure most of you know. But he was the 3rd Abul Hasan. And to differentiate between the kunyats of the Imams, he was given the title that he's the 3rd Abul Hasan. Who's the first Abul Hasan? First Abul Hasan was Imam Musa Kazim. Second was Imam Ali Rada. And third was Imam Ali Naqi al-Hadi. They were the first, second, and the 3rd Abul Hasan. And people might say, well, Amir al-Mu'mineen was also Abul Hasan. But there's no Abul Hasan of first or second in the name of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He was mutlaqan Abul Hasan. So you don't really have to differentiate between him. But the 7th Imam, the 8th Imam, and the 10th Imam, they were consecutively referred to as Abul Hasan al-Awwal, Abul Hasan al-Thani, and Abul Hasan al-Thalith. So he was the 3rd Abul Hasan. He said, the world is a trading place. Some gain in it, and some face a loss in it. What do we trade with it? What is it that we should be trading in this world? What is it that Imam is directing our attention towards? Inshallah, we'll end in the couple of minutes with that. We again refer to Nahjul Balagha. Imam says, إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ لِأَنفُسِكُمْ ثَمَنٌ إِلَّا الْجَنَّةَ فَلَا تَبِيعُوهَا إِلَّا بِهَا. He said, the real price for your trading, for your soul, which treads down the path of obedience and prosperity, is only paradise. Do not trade your soul for anything less than the paradise. He says, "Man ba'a nafsahu bighayri na'im al-jannah faqad zalamaha." Whoever trades his soul for other than the paradise has indeed done injustice to this particular soul. So do not trade it for anything less than the paradise, lest that be something, if you go ahead and trade, it will be nothing but a loss as far as this trade is concerned. We ended with this ayat from Surah Tawbah, verse number 111, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ اشْتَرَى مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ أَنفُسَهُمْ وَأَمْوَالَهُمْ بِأَنَّ لَهُمُ الْجَنَّةِ. Indeed, Allah has bought from the faithful their souls and their possessions for paradise to be theirs. We see that Allah is also directing our attentions towards as to what is it that you should be selling your souls to. Nothing in this world could replace or be the price of the souls that you have been given, except the paradise that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is promising in this ayah, as well as the ahadith that we had recited. Inshallah, we'll continue from here next week. Let us ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq to be able to follow the commands in Quran and the commands of prophets and anbiya. Oh Allah, give us the tawfiq to be able to follow the teachings of Ma'sumin alayhi salatu wassalam. Oh Allah, hasten the zuhur of our awaited Imam and make us among the helpers and the soldiers of Imam. Inna ahsan al-hadith wa ablagh al-mu'idha kitabullahi a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilus salihat wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr.